Sydney Blanchard. I'm a professional barrel racer and I've qualified for the National Finals Rodeo 3 times. I'm here with my horse, Barbie Monroe. She'll be our next champion. And I want to talk to you a little bit about my story. So I'm going to make this sweet and fast, but I ended up getting injured at an event, and it resulted in the lack of movement in my legs. I had to go through extensive physical therapy, working my legs, getting them to work again, and of course I couldn't compete or ride for an extended period of time. However, not as long as I thought it was going to be. So what ended up happening was I lost a lot of faith during that time. I had always competed. That's all I'd ever done. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And I was really fighting my head about what my next step in life would be if I were to never recover, because I had nerve damage and the doctors couldn't tell me when I would be better. If it would be, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, ever, and if I would ever be able to compete at the elite level again. And so to make a long story short, I really struggled with that. However, I did everything I could to get back to normal. And that was with the Lobo football team trainer, thank you, Smitty. And what they did was we did all underwater therapy. But meanwhile, I still didn't know whether or not I would be able to compete at what was my favorite event, which was the Calgary Stampede. And at the Calgary Stampede, you have a chance to win $100,000, which is the most I've ever competed for in one event. So having to give that event up, and already having to give up another finals that I had qualified for, that was the month after my injury, which was the Dodge National Circuit Finals. I had never qualified for it. It was also a dream of mine. I still, in 10 years, have not been back. And it hit me hard when I wasn't able to compete at the Dodge Circuit Finals, because then I realized, man, I may not be able to compete at Calgary. I may not ever be able to compete again. And that really sent me into a dark place. Now, what I started doing was I poured myself into the Bible. I poured myself into Christian books and Christian living, and I really finally came to a wonderful place with God. And that place was, even though I want to compete and that's my dream and I want to run barrels and rodeo and be the best, that doesn't mean that that's God's plan for me. And I had to come to terms with that and be okay with that, because we have to trust in God and know that His plan is the best no matter what. And so the minute that I gave that up to Him and I said, God, this is what I want, but if it's not your will, I trust in your will, because your will is the best for me, and that's the best path for me. And so the minute I gave that up, I rapidly started healing, and I healed so fast, and to the point that I even got to compete at the Calgary Stampede with help. I had to help driving there. I had to, do all my exercises every single day, so my legs would fire, my nerves would fire correctly. But through that faith, and finally giving it up to God and allowing His will to take over, He allowed me healing so rapid that I was able to compete months and months before we ever thought I would be able to compete. And not just compete, but compete at the elite level. And not just compete at the elite level, but actually win that event, win first place. We won $100,000. And it was so special to me, because even there, under the pressure of having to run one run for $100,000, I didn't feel pressure, because I was so grateful to be there, and that was God's calling for me to be able to compete that day against that type of competition on my horse that had also gone through an injury. And so my advice to you guys during this time is, no matter what you feel in your heart you should be doing, trust in God and trust that His will is perfect and His timing is perfect, and be okay with that, because God's plan is the best plan for you and for me, no matter how we feel. And once we realize that and we get to that point and we get to that plan, our life is better than ever, and we wouldn't change it, and we wouldn't go back, and we wouldn't have it our way instead of His. So be fearless and trust God.